The racism, it leaves us all like kind of scratching our heads because we really don't know what to do and how to react to the racism. But there is no equality for people here, and it's very frustrating. As a black person or a brown person, a Latino or Asian, whatever your aspirations are, it's frustrating to you. In education, they have had to come a long way because previously, before the 1960s, they didn't care. It doesn't matter what laws were on the books. They simply did not care. They did not educate our children, and people fought, marched, died so that uh, black and brown children would be able to get a decent education. But white backlash is real, and no matter what we fought and won in the courts, they would obfuscate and hem and haw and put up all kinds of roadblocks to our ability to achieve whatever we had achieved in the courts. So check this out. I remember in the 1970s when my parents had come here, myself and my sisters, and they had to go to community meetings because the white power structure in the educational system would advance these theories that black children were uneducable. Imagine that, uneducable. It's not that they wanted to teach us. They were saying, okay, we can't teach these children because they're uneducable. And our parents, and most of our parents, when they came from the diaspora, they didn't have great educations themselves, but they knew one thing. They knew that intelligence was all throughout our community. And for the white power structure to treat us as if our children were incapable of learning is a fallacy. So they fought, and they fought in the insistence that their children be given every chance that every other child. But you have to look at the racist nature of the American society and understand that they would resist, and they still resist, because anytime black people make progress in this country, it's met with resistance. That's the mechanism of white supremacy. They will not allow us to get anywhere, because it all begins with education. So when the white power structure eventually runs into a black person, man or woman, and they're highly educated and they've really got their credentials, they're flabbergasted because they really don't know what to do, and they can't begin to explain how this person got to be of such credentials. If we look at housing, I can tell you that black, brown people, we're pretty much trapped in certain communities. It's not like the Warsaw Ghetto where you could look and see that there was a wall built around the community. But if you looked at maps, you could see pretty much the communities where they keep us. And this is intentional. Another thing that's been intentional, and it's been proven if you look at what was done in real estate in this country. They make it very difficult for us to purchase homes, and thereby, if we never get the opportunity to purchase homes, we can never accumulate wealth. I've been fortunate that I've been able to buy a home, and was able to get some equity out of owning a home. I recently sold my home. One of the things I noticed, however, in terms of owning a home, I want to do a refinance, and it was about on 200,000 US dollars, and they put me through hell to do it. And the same bank that I went to for the refinance would tell me they don't believe I could make the payment, even though I've been paying on my home for years. But right after they told me that they wouldn't give me the loan, they also told me that they would give me a loan to buy a car for $35,000. And I was amazed at that because the car is debt, whereas the home is equity. The home builds wealth. The car doesn't. The car just puts you in debt. So they've got these traps for us that they put in place. Debt traps, whether they're car loans, credit cards, consumer financing, student loans, they got us. And once you're in those debt traps, there's nowhere for you to go. They got you. They got you. And once that's because it's going to take you years. Like if you buy a house, the mortgage is 30 years. I mean, certainly you can try to figure out how to pay it off earlier, but it's a 30-year debt trap. Okay. Now, employment. If we look at employment, we can go into a whole nother thing. So employment is an area where if you deal with black people at all, you deal with black people and you ask them about their experiences about being a worker, being in this system, they could tell you clearly that black and brown people do the bulk of the work in this country. We do the work, but the accolades and the wealth, the pay for the work goes to the white power structure. We never get given, we never receive anything for the fruits of our labors. We're just kept at a subsistence level because that's what happens. You never get recognition. And I myself, I worked in civil service, so it was slightly different because a lot of that is merit based. But even so, for promotional, you know you're not one of them, so they don't look at you the same way. You can still climb, but it takes you much longer. I did 28 years with the city of New York, so I'm in pretty good stead. I'm a pensioner now because I've retired, and I'm just waiting to be 62 so I can get my Social Security as well as my pension. But in a lot of levels, what I noticed was as the jobs became more difficult and more onerous, the whites wouldn't want to do those jobs anymore. What they would like is the pay level, but they don't want to do that work. So if they have a good person, a good brown or black person working under them, the person that actually does work, they will load all of that work onto that person. They'll never get rid of that person. That person can't move up. They can't escape because if that person moves up, there's no one there to do the work. So they keep you trapped in certain positions because they know that you're capable and you're willing to work and work hard and work longer. You come in early, you might stay late, but you're really about getting work done, which should be to your advantage, but it turns out to be a negative for you because they use that to keep you trapped, right? Because they have their own agenda and it's not for your benefit. And it's very frustrating to us. So a lot of times as black people or brown people, what we do is learn to keep our head down. We keep our head down and we just wait until we can retire and we take our pensions and our social security and we're gone. And we're hoping to go home or wherever we came from and say, hey, I'm out of that. Goodbye, Babylon. Hello, Zion. So that's what we do. Now, healthcare is another area in that I say for a country that's this wealthy, there is no way that healthcare should not be like a given for everybody, but it's not. Because I work for the city of New York, I had really good healthcare. It was a very robust healthcare package. It protected myself, my wife, my daughters. If you understand how serious healthcare is, it can make you or break you. 5 years ago, I suffered a major heart attack and I almost died. But, thank God, I had a lifestyle. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't drug, I don't do anything. And when I was much younger, I was an athlete, so my body was fairly strong. Now, in honesty, I was working two jobs at the time. I was working about 70 hours a week because with my life and my family and my responsibilities, there was no other way to do it but to work two jobs. So I was doing what I had to do, and eventually it caught up to me and my heart just... My doctors were very good because my healthcare was very good and they saved my life, and I had to go back into the hospital about 4 months later to get a pacemaker put on my chest. So right now I'm not like I was. I'm compromised, but I'm still here, and I thank God for waking up every day and being able to get out of bed and go forward and do what I want to do. But if I did not have the coverage I had, the alternative would have been something like this, where they would have told me the situation and they would have given me a Bible and they would have said, hey, listen, you've got about 6 months and you can go home and make peace with God, and that's it. And there are a lot of people that are brown and black people that don't have the kind of coverage I have because they didn't work for the city or the state or the federal government. So my coverage really helped to save my life. Now, I can tell you that, it's a very frustrating thing because I know that there are people that have something like diabetes and they need insulin and they don't have health care, so they can't afford insulin. So these people die simply because, and they tend to be poor people, brown and black people. The converse of the, if you look at the opposite of that, in our country, we have a lot of wealthy, very successful superstar athletes and entertainers, and they are paid off the charts in terms of income that most regular people don't have. A lot of these brothers and sisters are really wonderful people, and if they speak up on any matters concerning the treatment of black people in this country, the white power structure slaps them and reminds them that, hey, whatever you've attained can be easily taken away. So take, for example, LeBron James, right? This brother is as conscious as you can get. He's done everything. He spoke up against police violence against unarmed black men because obviously you know that there's been these violence issues against black people. And the minute he spoke up, the white media pounced and basically told him to shut up and dribble, that his job wasn't to make social commentary, but to bounce a ball. Think about that. Like, he's not a person with a mind, with a brain that can assess. He's just supposed to bounce a ball for their enjoyment. So in terms of your capacity, they only care about the fact that you entertain them. It's not about your intellect or your capacity to raise your brothers and sisters up. It's about their comfort level with you being able to entertain them. So the consequence of that is the young brothers and sisters, the young lions in our community never speak up because they are in fear that the trinkets that they've worked so hard to attain will be easily taken away. And the white power structure is not afraid of using any means to rob you of those things. So take, for example, Bill Cosby, O.J. Simpson, Michael Jackson, Wesley Snipes. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on about people that the white power structure built up and then for some reason took them away. Like even the stuff with Cosby, and Cosby's in jail. The reason they went after Cosby wasn't because of any nonsense with him going after these women. What it was Cosby was putting together a deal to buy a major media television network. And that would have served to give black people a voice where they've never had a voice. And they will not allow